Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our lecture on understanding personality and motivation within Canada's unique cultural and organizational landscape. Canada's identity as a multicultural nation, shaped by Indigenous heritage, bilingualism, and a diverse immigrant population, creates a fascinating context for studying how personality traits and motivational strategies manifest. Today, we'll explore frameworks like the Big Five personality traits and self-determination theory, applying them to Canadian settings through case studies like Shopify's remote work policies and Indigenous perspectives on personality. Our goal is to understand how regional diversity, cultural values, and workplace dynamics influence individual behavior and motivation. Canada's cooperative culture, rooted in its history of inclusivity and social safety nets, sets the stage for unique psychological dynamics. For instance, the collaborative ethos seen in federal-provincial negotiations reflects a national tendency toward agreeableness, while urban centers like Toronto foster openness due to their cosmopolitan nature. We'll also consider how bilingualism in Quebec shapes personality expression and how Indigenous holistic views challenge Western models. By the end, you'll be equipped to analyze personality and motivation in Canada's diverse workplaces, from tech startups to public sector roles. This lecture will provide practical insights for tailoring HR practices and negotiation strategies to Canada's multicultural context, ensuring cultural sensitivity and effectiveness. Let's begin by diving into the Big Five personality traits and their regional variations across Canada, setting the foundation for our exploration of motivation in case studies. Let's kick off our exploration with the Big Five personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, and how they manifest in Canada's diverse regions. In urban centers like Toronto, where over 20% of residents are foreign-born according to Statistics Canada, 2021, high openness drives creativity, evident in the city's thriving tech and arts scenes. This trait fosters innovation, as seen in companies like Shopify, which leverage diverse perspectives. In the prairie provinces, such as Saskatchewan and Manitoba, conscientiousness is pronounced due to a strong agricultural work ethic, shaping disciplined and reliable workplace behaviors. Vancouver, a social and cultural hub, exhibits higher extroversion, with residents engaging actively in community and networking events, reflected in its vibrant startup ecosystem. Agreeableness, a hallmark of Canada's cooperative culture, is evident nationwide, particularly in collaborative policies like universal healthcare, which emphasize collective well-being. Neuroticism tends to be lower due to robust social safety nets, though income disparities, as noted in UBC's 2019 study, can elevate stress in lower-income groups. For example, Bombardier's employee performance metrics align with these regional traits, showing how personality influences productivity. For students, understanding these variations is critical for tailoring HR strategies. Consider how a manager in Calgary might prioritize conscientiousness in hiring, while a Toronto leader values openness for creative roles. This regional lens helps us design culturally sensitive workplace policies. As we move forward, we'll connect these traits to motivation theories, exploring how they drive performance in Canadian organizations, particularly in tech and public sectors. Building on our understanding of personality, let's explore motivation theories that drive performance in Canadian workplaces, focusing on self-determination theory, SDT, and goal-setting theory. SDT posits that autonomy, competence, and relatedness are key to intrinsic motivation. In Canada, tech firms like Shopify emphasize autonomy, allowing employees to innovate freely, as highlighted in UBC's 2020 study. This approach aligns with Canada's high individualism score on Hofstede's cultural dimensions, fostering creativity in cities like Ottawa and Toronto. Goal-setting theory, with its emphasis on clear, achievable targets, is widely applied in Canada's public sector, such as Health Canada's performance metrics, ensuring efficiency in service delivery. Canada's collectivist tendencies, rooted in its multicultural ethos and seen in policies like the Canadian Multiculturalism Act, 1988, enhance relatedness, making team-based motivation effective. For example, Tim Hortons employee engagement programs use team building to foster a sense of belonging, reflecting SDT's relatedness component. Economic pressures, such as rising costs, can shift focus to extrinsic rewards like bonuses, but intrinsic motivators like autonomy remain critical in knowledge-based industries. For students, consider how these theories apply to diverse Canadian contexts. In a Vancouver startup, autonomy might drive innovation, while in a Newfoundland community, relatedness fosters collaboration. Designing motivation strategies requires understanding these cultural nuances. As we transition, we'll explore how Indigenous perspectives on personality offer a unique lens, contrasting Western models and enriching our understanding of motivation in Canada's diverse cultural landscape. Following our discussion on motivation, let's explore Indigenous perspectives on personality, which offer a profound contrast to Western psychological models like the Big Five. Among Alberta's Cree communities, personality is viewed holistically, integrating mind, body, and spirit, as outlined in the Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples, 1996. Unlike individualistic Western frameworks, Indigenous perspectives prioritize community-oriented traits, valuing collective harmony over personal achievement. Storytelling serves as a powerful tool for assessing personality, revealing traits like empathy and leadership through narratives, unlike standardized tests. For example, Cree elders in Alberta use oral traditions to evaluate community roles, shaping educational and leadership practices. The University of Alberta's 2018 study highlights how these perspectives are reshaping modern educational policies to be more inclusive. Reconciliation, as emphasized by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, 2015, drives the integration of Indigenous concepts into Canadian psychology, fostering cultural sensitivity in workplaces and schools. This approach challenges HR professionals to adapt assessments for Indigenous employees, ensuring fairness in diverse settings. For students, consider how these holistic views can inform workplace policies in Canada's multicultural context. Incorporating Indigenous perspectives enhances cultural competence, particularly in regions with significant Indigenous populations like Alberta and Manitoba. As we move forward, we'll examine how gender differences in Canadian negotiations reflect personality traits and cultural norms, building on our understanding of diversity's impact on organizational behavior. Continuing our exploration, let's examine gender differences in Canadian negotiations, which reflect both personality traits and cultural influences. Research by Amanatullah et al., 2008, shows that women tend to prioritize relational outcomes, fostering collaboration and long-term trust, while men often adopt competitive strategies, aiming for immediate gains. In Canada's egalitarian culture, shaped by policies like the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, these differences are moderated by a commitment to fairness, evident in public sector wage negotiations in 2019. For instance, federal talks emphasized equitable pay, aligning with Canada's high agreeableness trait. McGill University's 2021 study highlights how women leverage agreeableness effectively in multicultural settings, such as Toronto's diverse workplaces, to build consensus. Men, conversely, may draw on conscientiousness to drive structured, goal-oriented negotiations. These dynamics are critical in Canada's public and private sectors, where diversity requires balancing relational and competitive approaches. For students, understanding these differences is key to designing inclusive negotiation strategies. Consider a scenario in a Vancouver tech firm. A female negotiator might focus on team cohesion, while a male counterpart pushes for performance-based outcomes. Both approaches, when balanced, enhance outcomes in Canada's cooperative context. As we transition, we'll explore how bilingualism, particularly in Quebec, shapes personality expression, adding another layer to our understanding of Canada's diverse negotiation landscape. Following gender dynamics, let's explore how bilingualism, particularly French-English contexts in Quebec, influences personality expression in Canada. The University of Ottawa's 2020 research shows that bilingual individuals exhibit higher cognitive flexibility, enhancing their ability to adapt to diverse workplace demands. In Montreal, where 20% of Canada's bilingual population resides, this flexibility correlates with elevated extroversion, as bilingual employees navigate multicultural settings with ease. Cultural identity plays a significant role, as Quebec's French heritage fosters a distinct sense of openness, requiring negotiators to balance linguistic and cultural nuances. For example, Montreal's financial sector relies on bilingual employees to bridge English and French-speaking clients, enhancing communication and trust. This dynamic is unique to Canada's bilingual regions, where personality traits like extroversion and openness are amplified in professional settings. For students, consider how bilingualism can enhance negotiation skills in diverse teams. A Montreal manager might leverage cognitive flexibility to mediate conflicts, reflecting Canada's emphasis on cultural sensitivity. As we move forward, we'll examine regional personality variations across Canada, exploring how geography shapes traits and influences workplace strategies, building on our understanding of bilingualism's role in personality expression. Building on bilingualism, let's examine how Canada's geography shapes regional personality variations, influencing workplace dynamics. UBC's 2019 study highlights distinct trait patterns across regions. In Atlantic Canada, high agreeableness reflects tight-knit communities, fostering collaborative HR policies in industries like fisheries. The Prairie provinces, including Alberta and Saskatchewan, exhibit strong conscientiousness, driven by agricultural and resource-based economies that value discipline and reliability. British Columbia, particularly Vancouver, shows elevated openness and extroversion, fueled by its cosmopolitan culture and tech-driven economy, as seen in startups like Hootsuite. Ontario, with its diverse economy, balances all Big Five traits, making it a hub for varied HR approaches, from finance to manufacturing. These regional differences inform tailored HR policies, such as recruitment strategies that prioritize conscientiousness in Calgary's oil sector or openness in BC's creative industries. For students, understanding these variations is crucial for designing effective workplace strategies. Consider how a Halifax manager might emphasize team cohesion, while a Winnipeg counterpart focuses on task discipline. Canada's federal structure and cultural diversity amplify these differences, requiring adaptability in organizational practices. As we transition, we'll explore how personality assessments in Canadian HR incorporate these regional nuances, ensuring fairness and cultural sensitivity in diverse workplaces. Following regional variations, let's discuss personality assessments in Canadian HR, a critical tool for hiring and team building in diverse workplaces. Big Five assessments, widely used by institutions like RBC and TD, predict job fit by evaluating traits like conscientiousness for banking roles or openness for innovation-driven positions. However, Canada's multicultural workforce, with 22% visible minorities, Statistics Canada, 2021, demands cultural sensitivity to avoid biases in evaluations. For example, standardized tests may misinterpret collectivist traits common in Indigenous or immigrant communities, requiring HR to adapt tools, as mandated by the Canadian Human Rights Act. Canadian banks implement bias mitigation training to ensure fairness, aligning with legal frameworks that prioritize equity. For students, this underscores the need to design inclusive assessment processes. Consider a Toronto bank hiring for a customer-facing role. An extrovert candidate might excel, but cultural biases must be checked to ensure fairness across diverse applicants. Regional differences, like Atlantic Canada's high agreeableness, further complicate assessments, requiring tailored approaches. As we move forward, we'll explore motivation strategies for Canada's growing remote workforce, connecting personality traits to effective virtual work environments, particularly through case studies like Shopify's innovative model. Continuing our discussion, let's explore motivation strategies for Canada's remote workforce, a growing segment due to the country's vast geography and post-2020 work trends. Self-determination theory highlights autonomy as key to remote engagement, a strategy embraced by Shopify, which allows employees to set flexible schedules, boosting innovation. University of Toronto, 2021. Virtual team building, such as online workshops or social events, enhances relatedness, fostering a sense of community despite physical distance, critical in Canada's dispersed population. Goal-setting theory drives performance by setting clear, measurable targets, as seen in remote public sector roles like those at Service Canada. Canadian studies emphasize that collectivist values, rooted in multiculturalism, make relatedness particularly effective for remote teams. Shopify's model, for instance, uses virtual hackathons to maintain team cohesion, aligning with Canada's high agreeableness trait. For students, designing remote work policies requires balancing autonomy with relatedness, especially in diverse regions like BC, where openness drives creative remote work, or the prairies, where conscientiousness ensures task focus. Challenges include isolation, which can undermine motivation, but structured virtual interactions mitigate this. As we transition, we'll apply these concepts to the 2020 Maple Leaf Foods labor negotiations, exploring how personality and motivation shaped outcomes in a real-world Canadian context. Let's apply our understanding of personality and motivation to the 2020 Maple Leaf Foods labor negotiations, a case that highlights Canada's cooperative culture. The issue centered on union demands for higher wages amid rising living costs, creating tension with management focused on profitability. Collaborative bargaining, facilitated by neutral mediators, leveraged high agreeableness among negotiators to foster trust and open dialogue, as reported by the Globe and Mail, 2020. This approach aligned with self-determination theory's relatedness component, as both sides prioritized mutual respect and shared goals, such as workplace stability. The outcome was an improved benefits agreement, including better wages and health coverage, avoiding a strike. Challenges included economic pressures and initial mistrust, but mediators used structured talks to bridge gaps. For students, this case illustrates how personality traits like agreeableness, prevalent in Canada's collaborative ethos, enhance labor negotiations. Motivationally, fostering relatedness through transparent communication was key. Consider how a manager in this scenario balanced union demands with corporate goals, reflecting Canada's egalitarian values. This case also highlights the importance of cultural sensitivity in negotiations, particularly in diverse workforces. As we move forward, we'll explore Shopify's remote work motivation strategy, another Canadian case that ties personality and motivation to innovative workplace practices. Continuing with real-world applications, let's examine Shopify's 2020 remote work motivation strategy, a landmark case in Canada's tech sector. The issue was maintaining employee engagement during a shift to remote work, prompted by global trends and Canada's dispersed workforce. Shopify implemented autonomy-focused policies, such as flexible schedules and self-directed projects, aligning with self-determination theory's autonomy component. This approach resonated with employees high in openness, a trait prevalent in Canada's tech hubs like Ottawa and Toronto, fostering innovation and productivity, as noted in Shopify's 2020 corporate blog. The outcome was a significant increase in productivity, with employees reporting higher job satisfaction. Challenges included potential isolation, which Shopify addressed through virtual team-building events like online hackathons, enhancing relatedness. For students, this case demonstrates how aligning motivation strategies with personality traits maximizes outcomes. In Canada's context, where urban centers drive innovation, leveraging openness through autonomy is particularly effective. Consider a Vancouver tech firm adopting similar policies. High openness employees thrive in flexible environments, but relatedness must be maintained to prevent disengagement. This case also reflects Canada's cultural emphasis on individualism tempered by collectivism, balancing personal freedom with team cohesion. As we transition to our final slide, we'll review the references that underpin our analysis, providing resources for deeper exploration of personality and motivation in Canada's diverse landscape. To wrap up, let's review the references that have informed our exploration of personality and motivation in Canada. Aminatullah et al., 2008, in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology provide critical insights into gender dynamics in negotiations, highlighting relational and competitive strategies relevant to Canada's egalitarian culture. Deci and Ryan's 2000 work in psychological inquiry outlines self-determination theory, which we applied to Shopify's autonomy-driven model, and Tim Horton's team-building efforts, emphasizing autonomy, competence, and relatedness in Canadian workplaces. Shopify's 2020 corporate blog details its innovative remote work strategies, offering a practical case study for motivation in tech-driven environments. The Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples, 1996, provides a foundational understanding of Indigenous perspectives, crucial for integrating holistic views into modern HR practices. For students, these sources offer a wealth of knowledge for analyzing personality and motivation in Canada's multicultural context. Explore them to deepen your understanding of how regional diversity, bilingualism, and Indigenous values shape organizational behavior. Consider how these frameworks can inform fair and inclusive HR policies, from hiring to remote work strategies. This lecture has equipped you with tools to navigate Canada's diverse workplaces, emphasizing cultural sensitivity and psychological insight. Thank you for your engagement, and I encourage you to apply these concepts in your future studies and careers.